Well, I thought I didn't know football, but I found out I know a little football. And Shadur Sanders, enough said.
I think I agree to that. Let's get this started.
Welcome to 4th and 10U, the home of college football for everyone. Whether you're a die-hard fan who lives for Saturdays or just getting into the game, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and join the team. This is 4th and 10U, where every play is a chance to make history.
Welcome to the brand new episode here on 4th and 10U. It is official, Mike. We are here on our new home, and I will say the lay of the land looks real good. How do you feel about it, man? Well,
I'm stoked. We already got 10 subscribers. We don't even have an episode yet.
I know, it's crazy, right? If you're just joining us or maybe never heard of us, this is 4th and 10U. I'm Ali the Persian. This is Mike on the mic. You may have seen us on another network called the Fans Tailgate or the Fins Tailgate Network. You can definitely check them out. I'll have them linked here somewhere in the description eventually, so you can always check out their content. You can also find me in a lot of my content, some of Mike and the Mike's content, as well as some of the live stuff that I do over there as well. But let's get to business. If you're brand new, make sure you hit the like button first. Turn on the notification bell, right? Subscribe, do the whole 10 yards, leave comments, join the chat. I appreciate everybody, right? So make sure you get ready because this is going to be a banger, big time banger, right? And if you didn't know, if it's new here, we do things a little bit different around here. Every episode, we got to ask that question. Does the cleat fit? Right? Does the cleat fit, Mike?
Always.
Always? All right. Well, you may have heard of NFL's cause for cleats. Well, ours is, does the cleat fit? And what today's charity or cause that we're going to shout out is going to be something for the whole month of May. Our cause that we're shouting out, and before I do so, every episode we're going to shout out to some charity or cause because it's good for the human soul, right? I believe in something called paying it forward. And that's something, this is how I do that by relaying information to our audience and letting them know of some cause that maybe they know somebody that could get some assistance or bring awareness to something, right? I think it's good for the mind, body, and the soul. And with that, we have no affiliation with this cause. We're just shouting them out. This is the month of May, and the cause that we're going to be shouting out is the Mental Health Awareness Month. And with that being said, it's Mental Health of America is the official cause that we're going to be shouting out to. If you didn't know, you can go to mhanational.org to find more information about Mental Health America. And you can find out about their mission and everything. Their mission, just so you know, is Mental Health America advances the mental health and well-being of all people living in the U.S. through public education, research, advocacy, and policy, and direct service. Mental Health America works to close the mental health equity gap while increasing national-wide awareness and understanding. They're shaping the future, as they say at Mental Health America. They're not just dreaming of a better future, they're shaping it, right? And if you didn't know who they impact over 10 million people have reached through MHA's screening site. So their site has reached over 10 million people. 3 million total workers certified by MHA's Bell Seal program. And 1.6 million people have served by MHA affiliates, just so you know, right? They have posted over 3,351 letters to Congress, over 10.7 thousand conference attendees to the Mental Health of America conference, and over 436 town hall attendees. So they are doing whatever they can to reshape mental health awareness and in bringing information to everybody. So if you want more information about MHA, you can always go to mhanational.org. There you can find information about what they do, how to get involved, how to donate, ways they give to others, and what services they provide. Maybe you're somebody that's looking to get MHA certified. Definitely go to their site. It would definitely be helpful. Specifically, maybe you know somebody that's suffering from mental health, or maybe your own mental health is not so great. Definitely check them out. They may have services for you. Any last thoughts on MHA National?
Not on that organization, but I love organizations like that. So I was actually diagnosed with clinical depression. I checked myself into a psych ward back in 2011, had a complete mental breakdown. The weight of the world finally got to me. And from that day forward, I've been a huge advocate for mental health, especially the awareness of how it can affect people's lives and the families and friends and loved ones. Uh, I think a lot of people are nervous or maybe scared to admit that they're struggling with their mental health. For me personally, it's been a 15-year ongoing journey to continue to work on myself, to continue to see myself as valuable, to continue to see myself as a valuable asset to society. Not that that makes me any better than anybody else, but it takes a lot of work, and the organizations out there like MHA are designed to give you the help you need. You can't do it by yourself. For me personally, it took an army. to help me get back on the right track, to refocus my brain, to find my triggers that would cause the derailing thoughts and the trail of thoughts that would lead to depression, or they would lead to just mental breakdowns. I have a buddy of mine who still struggles with it, and he, he's tried he's tried to find a way out, and more times than one. And um, so I just love that there's people out there and big organizations that are really focused on it. And so if you are struggling with mental health, man, if you just want to reach out to me, I'll talk to you, bro. Like, or lady, I don't care who you are, what you're going through. Um, I'm here for you. I always will be. That's who I am. I'm a listener. I love to help you find your own solutions to some of the things that are really going on. But mental health is a big deal for me. It's something that means a lot to me because I've personally gone through it. But I've never been stronger because of the friends and the family and the support that I have. And so if you feel alone, then please check out MHA. Check out some of the mental health options in your area, wherever you may be, because you're not alone. And I know Ali will do it, and I'll do it as well. But please reach out to us if you need to, just a stranger that doesn't know you from Adam or Eve. We're here for you. I always will be. I will never turn you down. I will always I will always respond, because when you're going through something that's affecting your mental health, you can't do it alone. And I hope if anything, I hope you remember that it's impossible to do alone. You really gotta seek out the help that's out there.
100%. I definitely condone that message. You're not alone. Definitely. If you need someone to talk to, reach out to us. We're definitely great listeners.
Well, I know you can hear me, but I definitely just lost all audio. I don't know what happened, but Ali's gone for a second, so I'm here. But nice to see y'all. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, Real quick on the those of you that are new, to the ones that have subscribed to us, truly appreciate you. Truly appreciate that you're following us over here. Um, this is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time. So remember to subscribe. Make sure you turn on that, tune in for whenever we have shows. We'll have a weekly show for sure. We're going to do some live shows, maybe some on location shows. And thank you for coming over here from the TFTG, because the TFTG is where we started, and they gave us they gave us a platform, and so now we're doing our own thing. But what's good, y'all? Like, welcome back, dude. Like, you back.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
I didn't know what happened, but you just stopped talking, and I was like, "Oh, I see his mouth moving, but there's nothing coming
Yeah.
out of it."
Sorry, getting the rust off of the old system here. Essentially what I was saying is that nobody is left alone, right? We're all here to help. Mike on the mic and myself are very good listeners, 100%. And I definitely agree with everything that he had to say. One thing I will say though is that please be aware that mental health, someone that's not having very good mental health, can affect everyone differently. It's not just one thing they might be doing that is the symptom that shows that they may need some help. Sometimes it could be as easy as someone being very tired. You know what I mean? It could be somebody's just not eating right. Maybe their eating habits have changed. So just keep an eye out. Little different things can affect everyone differently. And with that being said, it's just something that you should really, really be aware of when it comes to awareness of mental health. But that being said, the show must go on, Mike. We got to get this party started. And why not start our new venture on our new channel, then starting it with the draft aftermath, right? That's the biggest thing that's happening in college sports as of right now. Players getting drafted. there was some crazy stuff, crazy moves. I think in one of our previous episodes, and like I said before, some of our shows from over there are going to be moved over to this channel, right? When that happens and you watch some of our episodes, specifically our pre-draft episodes, I mentioned there was going to be several trades in the first round. And I said it was going to be at least 3 to 4. And there was 4 on the money, right? 4 trades. One really, really quick too, which surprised me. But
I told I got screenshots. I called that trade an hour before it happened that I had a feeling Jacksonville was going to move up. Yeah, I just reading everything that was out there, and then I it just made sense for me for that new GM and everything. Anyways, I ain't trying to toot my own horn, but maybe a little bit.
I'm going to toot my horn for a second. My screenshots predate yours. On this very show recorded on the TFTG network side, I said that Jacksonville in our mock draft with Bullet Bob, I said that lo and behold, Jacksonville, who once drafted one of the best top corners, elite corners in this generation, would do it again. And I said it would be, I said it would be Hunter, and lo and behold, that's who they drafted. So
hey, I got Shedeur going to Cleveland, right?
Yeah. You know who predated me and you both?
Who?
Travis Hunter himself. Travis Hunter himself predated everybody and said, I'm going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar one day, right? And look what happened. He gets drafted by the team, right? So he called his shot from the very beginning. Go ahead.
Man, so our mock draft was more, we were having fun, but I did put out my final mock draft on 4th and 10U and everything on X. But I got 3 out of the first 5 right. I felt pretty good about that.
Yeah, I got another thing right. I said that everybody thought that Shedeur was going to become a Steeler if he didn't go to the Browns, right? That was the consensus. And I said, nope, Mike Tomlin likes a certain type of guy. And regardless of what
Big Ben
style type of player, right? And I watched him. If you watch the pro day, you could see Mike Tomlin sitting there keeping an eye on Will Howard for a good portion of the day, and he had many conversations with him. And even when you watch the call being made to Will Howard and you hear him speaking to Coach Tomlin, Coach Tomlin had the biggest smile on his face I've ever seen. I don't think that man has ever smiled until that call. I've never seen it. Maybe he has in the past. I don't know. But I'm just telling you, for me, I've never seen it that big before. So that was super cool. There was a lot of other things I called too, that would happen. I told everybody that this is the draft that, teams like Miami and other teams had to draft a defensive tackle. This draft was full of them. So it definitely had to happen. Speaking of that, what were name some players that you think was surprising to you or the best pick?
Oh, that's tough. I loved what Atlanta did in the first round. Let me see. I'm gonna pull this up really quick because I don't want to butcher any of this, but I loved what Atlanta did. I loved how the Giants ended up getting Dart and Abdul Carter. I thought that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Ashton Genty to the Raiders. One of the biggest surprises to me was Mimbu to the Jets. I really thought they were going to take Tyler Warren there. I think Colston Loveland going before Tyler Warren was pretty nuts. I think the Saints not taking a quarterback with their first pick was kind of a surprise. Let's see. Cowboys did what Cowboys do. They didn't take an offensive weapon until Jaden Blue, but they got Tyler Booker. I loved Kenneth Grant to Miami. I actually liked him better than Mason Graham. The Colts, I'm pretty sure on one of our shows I compared Tyler Warren to Dallas Clark. So going to Indianapolis was fair. I'm just looking at the first round. Jahdae Barron to Denver. I think that's unfair. Getting Johnny Barron and Patrick Surtain Jr. already is the best DB group in NFL.
Mhm.
Amari and Hampton, after the Chargers signed Najee Harris, I definitely thought that was interesting. My disappointment of the draft was Matthew Golden going to Green Bay, where wide receivers go to die. I had high hopes for him, not anymore. But the Falcons getting James Pierce Jr. and they also grabbed Jalen Walker. I thought that was fantastic for them. Malachi Starks going to the Ravens with Kyle Hamilton. That's crazy. The Bills getting Maxwell Harrison. I'm not excited about the Dolphins having to face him twice a year.
Mhm.
But I'll be honest with you. The most surprising thing to me, and maybe the best pick in the first round at least, was Jihad Campbell going to the Philly. Because I don't know how the NFL keeps letting Howie Roseman do this, but they just keep hitting and they keep hitting and they keep hitting on prospects. Outside of the first round, um, I'm trying to think who I thought the best pick was. I really like Will Howard going to Pittsburgh. I thought that was big. Let me see here. I love that Tyler Shugg, my fourth quarterback on the board this year, drafted
Yep.
I think third or fourth. That was pretty big. Going to the Saints. I thought that was interesting. You know what? Here's my best pick of the draft. I got two of them on one on offense, one on defense. RJ Harvey going to Denver. He's now my sleeper for offensive player of the year. And Andrew Makuba going to Philly. Those were two of my best picks. Makuba was my top safety on the board. I know Malachi Starks and his reputation and everything, but I think Makuba is going to be a star in this league. And Philly, the rich get richer. But RJ Harvey going to Denver, Sean Payton's about to have a field day with that young man. That was a hell of a pick. So I guess
Yeah.
just that was probably my two favorite. I think the value for me, the best value in the entire draft was, and I know I'm a Longhorn fan, so you can say I'm a homer or whatever, but Quinn Ewers in the seventh, um,
Just to
man,
clarify,
he's
this
gonna
is not a Longhorn channel. Just to clarify that.
or an Ohio State channel, so I make sure to clarify that too. But I think the best value, honestly, was Quinn Ewers in the seventh to Miami. I think it's the perfect fit system wise. I think, and we've talked about it. He is the right-handed version of Tua, but I do think he's a little bit more durable. His injuries have been they haven't been detrimental injuries. We have our he has his hindrances. He does
Mhm.
get rattled. I think he's decent at forgetting the last play and moving on to the next. But I think he at least competes for the backup position with Zach Wilson. So my two best picks were R.J. Harvey to Denver, Makuba to Philly, and the best value I think was Quinn Ewers in the seventh
Okay.
to Miami. And one last thing on Quinn Ewers, that dude lost like $5 million by going into the draft rather than going back to school. He had an $8 million NIL offer. He chose to go into the draft. So kudos to him. And man, did you see all the dang trophies he had in his house? That dude had probably 50 deer and some elk and some moose and
Yeah,
some
yeah, we
bears.
were.
Like, bro.
Yeah, he definitely he got his trophy wins there. I wonder how many of those that he killed though himself. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know. He does come from
Definitely,
Texas,
definitely.
though. We like to hunt.
Quinn Ewers, if you're listening, we're going to invite you to an interview coming soon. I promise. All right, let me give you my rundown of the draft. These were some of the biggest, best picks in my opinion. As I said before, the Eagles are just the rich get richer, right? Jihad
Jesus.
Campbell. I mean, they came away with Makuba. If you don't know, the Eagles platform, they just draft every Alabama and Georgia player they can get their hands on. That's what it comes down to. They also got who else? Washington Commanders picked up Trey Omos. That's a great pick. Omos is recognized in his pass breakup skills and considered a high value pick. So definitely very good pick up there. This one kind of shocked me. Chicago Bears picked up Colston Loveland. I had a feeling he would go to the Chargers, ultimately, because I know they need a tight end. But Chicago picked up a tight end, someone that can help Caleb Williams. I think it's a great pick for them.
Hey, let me ask you. Let me stop you. I want to ask you a question on that. Did
Mhm.
he deserve? Like, did you have him? I had him as tight end 2. Did you have him as tight end 1?
I did not have him as tight end 1. I had what's his name as tight end 1.
Tyler
Uh
Warren, right?
Tyler Warren, yeah. That's who I had as tight end
So
1.
let me ask you a question. Do you think Chicago did that because Colston Loveland's a better pass blocker?
I think it's the other way around. I think that Cole Kmet is a better pass blocker and Colston Loveland is a better receiver.
Okay. I was
That's
just
what I
curious.
think.
It blew my mind. It blew my mind. I'll let you get back to your recap, but it blew my mind that Loveland went before Warren. I didn't see that in a million years. Not going to be.
Yeah,
Not going to
I
lie.
didn't. I didn't either. To be honest, I didn't see Tyler Warren going to the Colts either. But if memory serves me right, I said that the Colts would take a tight end because that's a Colts thing to do. I think I had a different tight end in mind, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so that was massive. What else? Here, let me go down the rest. So Matthew Golden to Green Bay. I'm sorry, I gotta point this out real quick. The best dressed man at the first round of the draft that was there at the draft was Matthew Golden. His suit, I honestly, I want to buy one. To be honest, I want to buy one for real. I'll wear it on this show, dude. I mean, seriously. He was that guy. He really lived up to the moment. Matthew Golden, you turned him on to me when I first found out about him. I watched tape on him. Much better receiver than anybody else that you guys had on the roster at Texas. Even Isaiah Bond. A lot of people are asking, should their team sign him because he's still out there. I personally think whatever's going on in his personal life has affected football for him. He didn't seem like he was really there during the game against Ohio State. Dropped in
Well,
one of the
dude.
easiest passes ever. So,
Well, and I'm going to tell you straight up, there
good.
was a text message that leaked. There was a text message that leaked. And I think this is what tanked his draft status. He he uh he sent a text, and this is hearsay, whatever, but it's confirmed.
This is
He sent a text.
allegedly.
Yeah,
Yes.
so he sent a text that said alcohol makes me do things to the woman in question for that lawsuit. And so I think that's probably why he dropped. And what's crazy about Isaiah Bond is he said he transferred to Texas to improve his draft stock, and then he went undrafted. So I don't know how that
He was
worked.
at Alabama first, right? I believe. Yeah, he
Yep.
was at
Yep.
Bama first, and then he went to Texas. So yeah, he didn't get any better, to be honest. In fact, I would argue in some cases he got worse, to be honest. So I
Hey,
don't know.
if you're done with your draft recap, we got to toot our horns, bro.
Yeah.
Texas and Ohio State. Texas and Ohio State had the 2 most players drafted in this draft.
Yeah, in fact, Ohio State tied for second all time, 14 picks. They were
13,
one
right?
away
Oh,
from
14, yeah.
they're one away from tying the 15 mark, which would have been amazing.
Yep.
And
And
there was
Texas had
players
12.
that I kind of felt that should have been drafted that weren't, but that's okay. Seth McLaughlin, you're still the best damn center in the nation. I do not care what people say. And I know you had an injury, but I believe the Cincinnati Bengals, who picked him up, got a massive steal there. So shout out to the Bengals for picking him up. What else can I tell you? Surprising picks. I called the Big Ben, not Big Ben, Will Howard to the Steelers, who, in my opinion, even Pat McAfee has said that he looks like Big Ben kind of out there. I don't know if you saw what John Gruden said. Gruden said that Steelers just got the best player in the draft. In his opinion, the best quarterback in the draft. And everything. But then again, he said that about Quinn Ewers to Miami. He said he was a hell of a pick too. So I don't know. Take it for what you will on what he says. What else? What else was a crazy but
Yeah,
good
I got a crazy one. New
Mhm.
England, New England traded for Mr. Irrelevant, Kobe Minor.
Yeah.
I've never in my life seen a team trade to get the last pick in the NFL draft. I've never seen it happen. That was huge for me. I was like, whoa, what? And it was so like the draft has already been over pretty much. Mr. Relevant, there's only ever been one that was successful. And they traded to get him. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. What an interesting pick for me, which is kind of a steal in a sense. The Ollie Gordon pick by Miami. That was a hell of a steal. I did not expect Ollie Gordon to still be there.
No, and like his 2024 season really hurt him because in 2023 he was guaranteed a top 50 player. And he went back to school and he gained a little bit of weight. He didn't have his yards per carry went from like 6 to 4. That was if he can get back to 2023 form, Miami's got a three-headed monster at running back with A-Chain, Wright, and Gordon. And I've heard reports that they're going to use A-Chain more as a receiver this year, which means you'll have Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon. And don't get me wrong, Alexander Madison, I know they signed him, but yeah, I don't disagree. I was shocked he was still there, honestly.
I'll tell you what, Ollie Gordon, I know you said he was kind of out of shape or whatever. I kind of disagree. I don't think their offensive line was as good as it was in 23 versus 24. 23, they were much better, which opened up the lanes for him. 24, they had injuries, I want to say. And in that being said, he is one of the best pass catchers coming out of the backfield I have seen. You know, there's a guy that got drafted, which was I want to say maybe the third best running back in this draft, Travion Henderson, right? Travion Henderson
New England
got drafted,
Patriots.
And yeah, he went to the New England Patriots. Hey, Judkins got drafted first, though. Keyshawn Judkins, who's my favorite running back, got drafted. Right?
Good call. Good call.
That was a hell of a pick by Cleveland. They at least got that right. What I want to say, though, is that Travion Henderson, though, is a hell of a pass catcher. Aw, how cute. And he's a hell of a pass catcher, and also, you know, a hell of a
best run blocker, best. He's the best pass blocker in the draft.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
He was O-line 6.
This guy, though, Ollie Gordon, I want to say his pass catching ability is a little bit more elite, and his pass blocking ability, which I've watched tape on him, is almost as good as Travion Henderson as well, right? So, and he's a bigger guy. He's much bigger than the other running backs that they have in Miami. So shout out to them. Great pickup for Miami. This is not a Miami Dolphins channel, I promise. What else? What else was really big that happened?
I mean, we're waiting a little bit longer to talk about it, but the biggest thing that happened, we all know what it was.
Shedeur dropping. That's what everyone wants to talk about. We can definitely.
I will say this.
I
love Jaden Blue. I love Jaden Blue going to Dallas. I think with them, they got Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, so I think he has a chance to play a pivotal role on passing downs. I loved Will Howard. I'm looking. Kyle McCord to Philly. That's a great position for him to be in.
I want to say the most questionable pick, to be honest, was not the Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. That wasn't questionable to me, based on the needs of Cleveland and everything. What was questionable to me was in the 3rd round, Isaac Tesla, the wide receiver, getting picked. I think it was. I want to say it's more questionable because the fact that he's kind of inexperienced and his availability, isn't as is not like a proven receiver at that stage of the draft. There was other receivers they could have gotten that were much more proven. That was kind of questionable to me. Go ahead.
So let me ask you a question, and I'll give my team afterwards. We probably have the same team, honestly. What was the most confusing draft for you, as far as what the team?
The Cleveland Browns.
Yeah,
I don't know what they were doing.
Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. They did Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins.
You mean
I don't
Dylan
think they
Gabriel?
had at all.
Dylan Gabriel is what you meant.
No, Dylan Gabriel and Shadron said they also took Dalen Sampson, a running back, and Quinshon Junkins. They took
Oh,
two
they
running
did.
backs and
Yeah.
quarterbacks.
You're
Yeah.
right.
So
So
that was
they
confusing. I will
they
say this though,
definitely made it.
Dallas.
Good. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Dallas passing on all the offensive weapons that they passed on. I live down here in Texas. It's all over the radio. There's some people that love their picks, but the fact that they waited till I think it was the fifth or sixth round to get an offensive weapon, that confused the heck out of me because all they got is CD Lamb. They ain't got nobody else. So that was pretty interesting to me. But I will say this about Dallas though. The reason
Mm-hmm.
they're not my most confusing team was if healthy, he probably would have been CB2 in this draft, if not CB3. They took Siobhan Ravel, and that dude's ability is off the charts. If he can get back to health, um, his ability to trail the receivers, his ability to jump the routes, his ability to read the quarterback, read the play. If he gets healthy, that's a hell of a pick for them.
Yeah, Siobhan Ravel definitely has first round talent. There is a surprising move I forgot to mention that really surprised me. Will Johnson dropping to like the third round. That was crazy. From what I understand,
I won't argue.
Hold on. What I understand is that he has some really bad knee issue that is generated from what I understand. I don't know how true that is because when you look at his injury history, it doesn't really look like he's ever had a knee injury. He's had ankle issues and stuff like that. So this is kind of new, but that is kind of sad for him. I feel bad. You know what I mean? You were there and you were expected to be the first corner off the board, and he didn't go until what, the third round. That was kind of crazy.
Well, and that report about his knees came out, and it was almost like that was like whatever was on tape as far as the medical report. It was real. People really legitimately whether we see his injury history as that's come up before or not, he legitimately there's concern in the NFL. That's why he dropped.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
There was a really cool story. I'm trying to find it really quick. Trying to find the name. Did you see that Baron Sorrell, the defensive lineman out of Texas, he was there on day one, he was there on day two, and on day three, he was the only, I think, and I heard this, and I may be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure he was the only person that was actually like introduced and got to like hug the commissioner and everything after the first round. And then he went by and he shook every single Green Bay fan's hand that was there in attendance. He went by one and shook as many hands as he could for his hometown team now. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really awesome. That's a hell of a pickup by the Green Bay Packers also being there that long.
Yeah, he went in the fourth round.
Yeah. I almost forgot. Another surprising pick. Not only did Detroit pick the receiver that was kind of questionable, they picked up Tyleik Williams in the first round.
Yeah.
Now, I like Tyleik Williams for obvious reasons, right? Based on who he played for. However, I didn't expect him to go in the first round. I thought he was more of a mid-second round to maybe even a third round player. He also had that issue running the 40 on his pro day. That kind of
fell on his face.
Dude, he did. It's supposed to be he cramped up really bad, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, what's the truth behind that, but that all made me question, like, why is Detroit? What is Detroit doing? So for me, the two teams that lost it the most, it's Cleveland number 1 and Detroit number 2. That's where I'm at.
I gotcha. I think it was Cleveland and Dallas for me.
Yeah. So let's get to the conversation everybody wants to talk about. Shedeur has fallen, right? Shedeur falling out of the first round. Didn't just fall out of the first round, he fell out of the second round. And then after he fell out of the second round, he fell out of the third round. And after the third round, he fell out of the fourth round, only to come back to Cleveland in the fifth round and they finally draft him, right? But with every fall, there comes controversy, right? This massive controversy of why did he fall, right? Everybody's talking about it. Why did Shedeur Sanders fall to the 5th round? Was this orchestrated by the NFL? People are asking those questions. People are making a big deal out of the prank calls that happened to Shedeur Sanders. Well, I'm here to tell you that prank calls happen to everybody. I want to say there's an offensive lineman that went to the Bills that got like 5 or 6 prank calls, right? This happens on a yearly basis. But there is stuff to talk about. Let's start off with your thoughts, and then we're going to listen to some audio of some of the other more prominent people out there and their thoughts. What's your thoughts first?
Oh man, open the can of worms or keep it civil. Um, First thing, I did hear an interesting thing. Delaney Walker, former tight end for the Titans and I think the Patriots, in January, before the combine, before the pro days, and before everything, on one of the podcasts he's on, made $1,000 bet with another host who said he was going to go in the top 2 rounds. And Delaney Walker didn't only bet that he wasn't going to go in the top 2 rounds, he bet that he was going to go in the 5th. We're going to listen to some audio of somebody else, but the reports that came out about his interviews, the reports that came out about his body language, his lack of desire for football. I mean, there's a video out there of Cam Ward calling him out on, he was like, let's do a song or whatever. And Cam Ward says, all I do is football. When they look up Cam Ward, they're going to see loves American football. Me personally, I love the prank calls. I think I think college pranks are some of the funniest things in the world. The fact that it's been going on for years, the fact that he wasn't the only one, I didn't see a problem with it. And honestly, he didn't look like he had a problem with it. He was just kind of confused by it. But here's my thoughts on Shedeur dropping. And I hope it's an example going forward for other athletes. I heard a story about 2001. Dallas Cowboys called Michael Vick in for an interview. They didn't have a first round pick, and Michael Vick knew that. But they called him in for an interview, and he went over tape. He explained what he was thinking on some of the plays. He answered every question. He was engaged. He was interested. And he legitimately gave his all in that interview, knowing that he wasn't going to be picked by that team. What I've heard and what I've seen is that Shedeur Sanders, when he was called in for an interview by a team that had a quarterback, he didn't give his all. He was just waiting for it to be over. Didn't want to answer questions, didn't want to break down film, acted like he was better than that team. Like, you're not going to draft me, so why am I here? You've seen some videos of him getting in ball boys' faces. There's a video that just came out about him in the locker room at Jackson State, and all his teammates were just staring at him because they didn't. And if the look on their face, you can assume what you want, but they obviously weren't pleased with him. There's reports that came out that he blames his teammates for all of his mistakes. So I hope what the example is going forward for young athletes that are coming out of college is to take the process seriously. If you're trying to get into an industry in the world and you set up 10 interviews in that industry and you get to that first industry, but you have your eyes focused on the 10th interview, so you don't give it your all, by the time you get to that 10th interview, they're going to have called and found out that you didn't seem very serious. You weren't really interested in the job on that first interview. And you're probably not going to get hired by any of the 10, or you're not going to get hired for what you think you're worth. And Shedeur Sanders went into these interview processes not working at the combine. I don't know what his thinking was in that, but not working out at the combine, not taking the interview process seriously, buying $1 million chain, setting up your whole house for a draft party, assuming that you were going to be a top quarterback taken. I think the NFL, I've heard that GMs took him completely off the board because the owner didn't want that guy. And so it goes back to something I've said before. When this NIL right now in college, and he's prime example of it, they don't feel like they got to work hard anymore. They get this money in college. And they get to the NFL and like, well, I've already made a couple million, I don't have to work hard. You drafted me, I'm gonna start. And back in our day, you got to high school, you worked your tail off to get a D1 offer. You got the D1 offer, you worked your tail off to become an NFL draft prospect. You got to the NFL, you worked your tail off to become a starter. And then you worked your tail off to be a Pro Bowler or get to the Hall of Fame. And nowadays, these kids are assuming they're going to get drafted because of their name, their performance on the field, whatever. Um, I I didn't like Shedeur coming into the draft, and it was skill set wise. When I started hearing all these reports about his personality, his demeanor, his lack of love for the game, he dropped even further on my board. When you draft a quarterback in the NFL, you're drafting a potential leader. The quarterback's the guy that runs the team. Every now and then you get a Ray Lewis or Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor. You get somebody on the defensive side, Darren Woodson, that can lead your team. Nowadays it's Mason Crosby in Vegas, but your quarterback's supposed to be the captain. It's supposed to be the guy that makes the engine run. And I think what happened to Shedeur, I think it was fitting. And I saw the video of the draft room. You can tell the owner asked Cleveland to trade up. He got wind that Philly was about to take him, so he made Cleveland trade up to take him. That draft room was not excited. The war room, whatever you call it. The coach didn't clap. The GM was doing his little slow clap. The people in the back, you saw some of these picks, most of the picks that happened in the NFL in the war room. Everybody was dancing. They were happy. They were high-fiving. They were excited. It didn't happen with Shedeur. I wish him all the best. I don't want anybody to suffer, but I hope this forces him to work hard and not just assume he's going to be the starter day one. I mean, his dad in 2018 came out and said if anybody gets drafted by Cleveland, they need to go to a different team. Well, his son got drafted by Cleveland, and he wasn't even the first quarterback Cleveland took. So I'm hoping this lights a fire in him to work on his craft, and maybe he's going to fall in love with football. But going forward, I hope these young athletes see the detriment to not taking this process seriously. Because no matter where you think you're going to get drafted, no matter how good you think you are, these teams want to know the character behind the player. And Shedeur, his character was not that good, apparently. And I'm we'll never know. But if the owner of Cleveland didn't call in that pick, he may have gone undrafted, or he would have been a 7th-round pick. And now there's reports that the CFL is calling to try and negotiate a transfer for him. Skill set wise, here's the last thing I want to share Shedeur, and I want to turn it over to Ali. But they showed all these throws over and over again. They talk about his 72% accuracy, all this stuff. He didn't have a running game. His offensive line was crap. I'm not going to say the kid's not tough. He's incredibly tough. I think he has a decent NFL arm as far as arm strength. His accuracy is not that good. If you go back and watch some of those throws, they're milliseconds away from being intercepted, but the receivers made a great play on the ball to keep it from being intercepted and turn into a touchdown or a big game. And I said this on our shows before the draft. He reminds me of a Vince Young. Vince Young was a man amongst boys in college, and he got to the NFL and he thought it was going to be the same way. And he got a dose of reality really quick. And his deep ball accuracy wasn't as good as it looked like it was in college. And Shedeur is my same he's in the same caliber or the same tier as Vince Young for me. I think he's going to be exposed. I do think he holds the ball too long. And I think there's valid reasons as to why he dropped, not just because of his character issues, but I think the skill set on the field left some desirable taste in some of these GM's mouths. But the prank call, I didn't have a problem with it. I frankly thought it was funny. Tyler Warren got prank called like 7 times. There was, like you said, offensive lineman got prank called. They've been prank calling these NFL draft prospects for years. The fact that the NFL fined the Atlanta Falcons $200,000 and Jeff Ulbrich $100,000 because Jeff Ulbrich's kid prank called Shedeur, you better go find all these other sons of guns that prank called all these other players too. Otherwise, you're just making money off of that guy's name. And I think that's part of the problem was his name. And his daddy had a lot to do with his drop. So that's my 2 cents on it. It is what it is. I thought it was fitting that he dropped because I do think he didn't take the process seriously, and the NFL is a business. They're not going to hire somebody that's not going to do the job to the best of their ability, or not going to be interested in playing for their organization. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you said. There are some, we're going to listen to somebody that's in the community. That's very, he's a Hall of Famer in college football. We're going to listen to what he had to say. But I really think that a lot of him dropping has nothing to do with an agenda that the NFL has. And it has nothing to do with that. It has strictly to do with the fact that, I'll just be frank, I don't think that Shedeur Sanders is really that great, right? He's not an elite player, in my opinion. I agreed with what you said. A lot of his passes on the field were close to being intercepted, or he when he was trying to get out of the pocket, some of the sacks he took were caused by him. Not necessarily the lack of play at offensive line or the receivers not getting open. In fact, there's a reason why almost all the Colorado receivers were drafted, right? Did you notice that? There's a reason, because they're good. They're great receivers. Travis Hunter, great receiver.
Horn, or JC Horn, or whatever his name is, Joe Horn Jr.
Yeah, all of them. They're all great receivers. So that being said, I really think that this really just comes down to what they felt about his play. I heard all these things. Oh, he's so elite. He makes all the throws. Well, it's really, good that he's so elite and he makes all the throws, but look who he's throwing to. He's throwing to some of the best receivers in the game. There's a reason why Cam Ward was the #1 overall pick, right? Not only was he dynamic and could do things on a dime and make unbelievable throws, he's throwing to receivers that the #1 receiver on that team didn't even get drafted.
But and Cam Ward loves the game of football. He absolutely loves the game of football. Shedeur Sanders doesn't love football. He's just playing because he thinks he's the best. And so, anyways, but yeah, I agree with you. And the other thing about Shedeur, you were talking about scrambling into sacks. I have a problem with quarterbacks that hold the ball so long because they're waiting for the big play. They don't take the underneath routes. They don't take the swing routes. They don't take their outlet. They're just looking for the big play. And Shadeur's numbers were because he was looking for the big play. And I get it. I'm not knocking his 72% completion rate. That's great. It's college football. That's probably a 55 to 60% completion percentage in the NFL. Especially the defensive lines in the NFL are better than college. He's not going to be anyways, but that I do have a question when you're done with your take.
No, but ultimately, that's pretty much what it comes down to. I don't think that he dropped because of the fact that who his dad is, or it was the NFL trying to make a point, or there's some lesson to be learned here. The lesson to be learned is, don't try to put all of your eggs into one basket. That's what the lesson to be learned here is. And what that means is the fact is that you need to take the process seriously, right? When you were doing the interviews, and I know they didn't really release, which I wish they would, release some of the interviews that he had so we can see specifically what they were saying about him pre-draft, right? That he wasn't taking it serious. I would love to see that. Because I could use that as a tool when even helping my own employees learn how to interview better, right? And what I mean by that is when you go for a job, you want to prove to whoever you're applying to that you fit, that you'll be someone good to work with, that you are willing to do, what the job entails, right? You don't want to go in and says, if you don't like me, don't draft me. That's like saying, if you don't want to hire me, don't hire me. Just tell me now. You know what I mean? You don't want to have that kind of no care attitude, because the fact is that, teams aren't going to want to work with you. That means they're maybe difficult to work with. And that being said, and please note that this is all allegedly what has been said and what he has supposedly done during his interviews. Also, the whole talk that like Dion saying that we're only going to let him go where we want him to go, kind of a thing. That turns teams off too, right? I know teams don't want to get themselves tied to a situation that they're not going to have control of. And that, I kind of feel like some of the reasons he fell wasn't necessarily Shadur's fault. It was the people and representation he had, but also there's some accountability for himself that he needs to do. He needs to walk the line himself. You know what I mean? And I kind of felt like it was like, I'm above the line, and it's, and everybody in his ear at the same time, I kind of felt is the reason why he fell. Now, we're going to listen before you give your actually, you know what? Go ahead and give your take, and then we'll listen to the Hall of Famer.
Oh, I'll wait till after we play the audio, because mine are there. One of them is somewhat serious. The other one's just a funny one. So go ahead and play the audio.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and play this audio. Just bear with me. Here we go.
And it is, for those of you that aren't going to recognize the voice, this is Chris Carter, former wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings. He played with Randy Moss. He's a Hall of Famer. He knows football. He knows what it takes to make it in this league. And this is what he had to say.
All right, so just bear with me 1 second.
Seconds up.
There we go. We're going to do it this way. Let me know if you can hear the audio once I press play.
I got the ESPN. Thank God. Something else. No. All right. So what happened?
No.
Well, a number of.
You're not hearing the audio?
It's minimal.
Minimal. Okay. Give me a second. Just bear with me. All right. I'm going to play it now. Let me know if you hear it now.
Things happened. The number one thing that didn't happen was there was not a collusion message. What?
All right. Did you hear what he said there?
It's not a collusion message.
Yeah. First thing Chris Carter says, the one thing that did not happen is a collusion with the NFL owners. That is number one.
Can you turn it up? Can you turn it up at all?
Let me try. 1 moment. Let me actually stop sharing, and then I'll share it again, see if that helps. All right, let's try this. We're going to continue now.
Yeah, a lot of people think that. Because they wouldn't be able to keep a secret like that. And
so they might do it, but they couldn't shut up about it.
They wouldn't be able to shut up about it. But every owner is very, very selfish. Now, why would I do something to my detriment? Like if I need a quarterback and I think this kid is it, what he didn't realize is the guys that have fallen in the draft before, they all had unusual traits. Like they had some superstar qualities to them. Now, some other things happened that made them fall, but Shador and his family, they overplayed their hand. Them thinking that he was in the same evaluation mode as Eli Manning, they didn't play that right. Them trying to narrow the teams that he was going to go to, that didn't do right. Not working out the combine, that wasn't the right thing. His interview process, obviously, he could have done a lot better in that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people left that meeting, felt he was very, very entitled.
Which meet? Like, because they said Brian DeBall, Giants coach, had said he didn't like the meet, and he asked him. He had some book. Was his playbook or something he was supposed to know, and he said he felt weird about it. I don't know who else said they didn't like the meeting with him, or was just people behind the scenes saying they did.
Well, the thing about it, they didn't draft him.
I know that.
So it's not the tape.
Okay, because
All right, so he says that they didn't get it right because they thought that he was similar to the Eli Manning evaluation, right? And he really wasn't. So they didn't get that right, is what he says. And the commentator, oh, looks like we lost Mike. The commentator that they were listening to or talking to, he basically makes comments about something about Shador was supposed to have the playbook and understand the playbook, and he didn't have it or something to that effect. Well, what did Chris Carter say? Well, they didn't draft him, right? Let's see what else he had to say.
Hey,
Right.
Oh,
absolutely. I mean, his tape is good enough for him to be a first rounder, but there's a number of things. It's not one thing. Last year when Deion interviewed for the Dallas Cowboys job, that did not help Shador. Now it helped Deion get a new contract in Colorado, but long term it didn't help Shador because the Giants, they're coaching their last year, general manager in their last year. If they struggle, the Giants potentially an option would be to look at Deion as the head coach. So why would I draft a kid? Like they missed out on that. Like they obviously they didn't think this all the way through. And I think there were a number of teams that had that in the back of their mind, and they don't believe his talent is generation. They do believe the guys are more athletic and guys have bigger arms. And they do believe he's been coddled. He's been coached by Deion his whole life. Now, there's been benefits to that, but this is the first time it's been a detriment.
So his tape, because he had last season, 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, NCAA leading 74% completion rate. Then he said, in his line, was his offensive line good?
Offensive line was no good.
Okay,
wide receivers, 3 wide receivers drafted in the NFL.
Yeah, but offensive line,
no good.
I'm getting to him. So you talk about him holding the ball too much. Sometimes people are coming to hit you, and you don't want to throw it to the other team. Is that not fair enough?
Yeah, let me talk football, though.
Yeah,
there's a reason why a lot of dudes hold on to the ball, too, is because the coverage has not revealed where the ball, and their anticipation is not as good as some of the other guys.
So sometimes he ate the balls because he couldn't pick up the coverage prior to, and the defense outsmarted him.
All right. Did you hear that, Mike? Did Chris Carter just say that his anticipation is not as good as some of the other guys? Is that really what he was saying? Because he mentioned he named off that the offensive line wasn't that great. Okay, that's great. That's why they're getting to him. He's trying to play out of it, obviously. That's why he's taking sacks or holding onto the ball. But also, his anticipation to know where to go with the ball isn't necessarily as good as the others, right?
He was waiting for the big plays, waiting for the receivers to be open. He's not throwing with anticipation. He was waiting to see the open guy. That's basically what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, and he also mentioned that, his tape was good enough to be a first-round talent. I agree, but sometimes it's beyond what your tape is good enough that is required to be drafted in this league, right? Sometimes it's more than what you put on tape. It's context. It's who you are as a person, right? Just because you're being drafted into a league doesn't mean that you're a good fit, right? That's why this whole interview process and going through the pre-draft process, like not working out at the combine, that wasn't a good idea, right? Not, some of the things he did, I think really hurt him. Also, having this social media team follow you around constantly, videotaping every moment of your life and everything, I think that kind of hurts too, right? Teams aren't going to like that. They're not going to like seeing all these cameras in the locker room. It means that you're not really focused on football. Football should be your number one focus versus, hey, how did I look in that scene? Did you get me my move right? Did it look good? Those are things that you don't want to see out of a player. Ultimately, I hope he kills it at Cleveland. I hope he really does. I hope he proves myself and everybody wrong. I just don't see that happening, unfortunately. But that's where I'm at. Go ahead.
I think he's gonna have to work. I think he's gonna have to work hard for the first time in his life. He's gonna have to put in the effort. He's gonna have to take the game seriously. He's not gonna live off his talent. He's not gonna live off his daddy. He's gonna have to literally work hard. And like I said, in before we started the audio, I hope this does light a fire under him. I hope he does end up working hard. I hope he does try to earn a spot and earn the starting spot and not think he deserves it So that's my take. But I mean, you mentioned, and I'm gonna disagree slightly with you. You mentioned that his talent on tape made him a first round talent. I didn't see it. There's a reason he was my fifth. I think I had him at fifth or sixth best quarterback because I didn't see enough on tape. I saw too many deficiencies, holding the ball too long, scrambling into sacks. Not as accurate as his percentage showed. I showed and then, but a lot of the reason I had him as fifth or sixth was a lot of it had to do with the entitlement, the attitude, the blaming his teammates. Like he never looked like he cared whenever he made a mistake. He never looked like he cared. He just looked like he was just playing the game because he's been playing it his whole life. And so I think that had a lot to do with it. I don't think people in the videos that came out of him and Cam Ward talking in warm or practices and stuff when they were going through their drills. I think it's blatantly obvious the kid doesn't care about football, not like a starting quarterback's supposed to. So, anyways, I could go on and on as to why I think he dropped, but I think it was fitting that he dropped.
Now, do understand that was Chris Carter who said that he had first round talent on tape, right? But it's easy to put that on tape. The first round talent stuff is easy. There's a lot of quarterbacks that I felt had first round talent. Will Howard had first round talent, in my opinion. But in the first round, there's context on why some teams value other positions over others, right? Cam Ward, no doubt, was the number one overall pick. Everybody knew it. I knew it. He had the talent. He was dynamic, has a hell of an arm, and there's a lot. He has a massive amount of upside, right? You look at the next guy that got drafted, right? Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart, I felt, had first-round talent. Tyler Shugg, I felt, had first-round talent. Jalen Milroe, right? Jalen Milroe, cannon of an arm, freaking runs like hell, big man, big arms, right? Can't throw the short intermediate throws, but he can definitely make the deep, has the best deep throw in this draft class, the best deep throw, right? He has first-round talent, right? So having first-round talent isn't the complete picture. It's not the complete package, right? It's not the golden ticket and you get to go to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. It's not, right? What it is that, okay, you have the athleticism and you have some of the required attributes that really could help you in this game. That's what it is. Now you need to prove to me why you need to be the number one pick. And why you need to be the number one pick, that goes with conversations. That comes in the, hey, I'm going to sit down with the head coach and tell you everything I know about football. And I'm going to tell you what you don't see on tape, right? That's how you show the things that you don't see on tape, right? And he fumbled it, bro. He fumbled his opportunity to prove to teams what they don't see on tape. And that's what hurt. That's what hurt ultimately. It's not this NFL agenda. It's not the person prank calling, which I do agree they need to go after all the prank callers because every year, every draft, this happens, right? Without a doubt. Even Will Howard, it happened to Will Howard too. On top of it, did you see the one with Mason Graham? Did you see that one? That one's bad. Yeah. That one's really bad. Yep. That one, they need to go after whoever that is. So it's none of these things. It's just what he decided to do, that he really treated the NFL draft process to be beneath him. That's what it comes down to. And you can argue to me that until you're dead that I'm wrong, but I don't feel that I'm wrong, bro. Because think about it.
Yep.
Say he has the same tape, goes into the interview process, plays ball, and talks about all his knowledge about football and talks about what he would do in certain situations and expresses to the team, hey, I'm the guy for you. I will work my ass off for you guys. I'm going to be the one that wins that Super Bowl for you, and I'm going to prove it. And I think this would be a great fit. Talking like that is different than be like, if you don't want to draft me, don't draft me. Right? You know what I mean? That's what is so mind-boggling, that why anybody let him go through the draft process this way. I mean, Dion went through the same draft process. So I don't understand what he thinks Maybe he thinks with all the people he's worked with in the NFL and in the media and everybody else that it would work for him. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. What do you think?
I just think he's lived off his talent for his whole life. And he has the natural athletic ability. Um, but I ultimately think it comes down to love for the game, and I don't know if he loves the game. I think he loves the idea of being a starting quarterback. I think he loves the idea of being the in the limelight and having all the media spotlight and everything like that. But I don't think he takes the game seriously, and I think it showed.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. It really showed. And
But what else showed is um did you get as big a kick out of it as I did watching Mel Kiper squirm on live TV over and over and over again that Shadur wouldn't get drafted? Because I personally thought that was the end of Mel Kiper's career. Man, I was kind of pissed off a little bit because everybody that got drafted, he didn't let them have their moment. He kept bringing it back to Shadur on the board still, and like I don't know, I thought it was absolutely hilarious watching him squirm.
yeah, he went on like a 9.5 minute rant, basically.
Yeah.
He could not believe that Shador was dropping. I'm like, what is there not to believe, bro? I mean,
It's like they paid him a lot of money, is what it seemed like.
somebody did. Yeah, somebody definitely paid.
Man.
But yeah, it
My
was.
second question.
Mhm.
My second question is: did you know that Shadur doesn't have an E at the end of his name, or were you just being funny with our tagline?
I think it was misspelled somewhere else where I got it off of. That was by accident. No,
I just want to make sure I pointed out. I even had to Google it. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's just R. But anyway, I just had to give you a hard time, Bubba.
no, it's okay. It's all right. I'm not claiming to be the Olympic speller, to be honest. So just so you know that I make mistakes. I'm human. But
Hey, speaking of making mistakes, what's the bottom line today?
Well, the bottom line is don't put your eggs all in one basket. That's what we learned in today's episode. Don't put your eggs all in one basket. Yeah, congratulations to all of the athletes, not just the ones that got drafted, but also the undrafted free agents that signed with the team. They still have the ability to make their NFL dreams come true, right? And even being participating in training camp, your NFL dream is becoming true. You know what I mean? You're there. So, do you have any undrafted free agents that was your favorite? By the way, I have one.
Sec McLaughlin was good. I really Miami. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna space on his name, but Miami got the leading receiver from the SEC in catches and yards.
That's
Um,
that's my favorite. That his name is Andrew Armstrong. Andrew Armstrong.
I can't believe he didn't get drafted. The SEC is not an easy
So
league.
he
from
had all the
Arkansas, right?
yards and catches and everything. He had all that. He didn't have the touchdowns. That's where he lacked really bad. But I'm very surprised that he fell. To be honest, he's one of my favorite players. It's going to be very interesting to see what Miami does with him. And I want to say, in just quick snapshot, real quick, Miami signed like 4 or 5 receivers to that undrafted free agent team, which is kind of surprising because they're only limited a certain amount of number of players you can sign. So the fact that they got 4 or 5 receivers, that can kind of tell you what they're looking at. So very, very interesting. Yeah. So college football. College football is here. It's coming soon. You know, we're going to get into training camp. We're going to have a lot more to talk about then. There's some the next episode that we have. We're going to have some coaching carousels that happened recently. That's been an ongoing theme. If you're new to our show, it seems like every episode some.
Your
Can you
mic
hear
went
me
out.
now?
Your mic. Yeah, there you go.
Now it's back. Now it's back. Yeah, it's something's going on. I don't know. I think it's my internet or something. But long story short, you know, I cannot wait for the next episode. It's going to be fun. Any final thoughts, Mike?
I'll take it back to the beginning. The mental health awareness. I really encourage those of you that are struggling to reach out to somebody, somebody you think could be a good listener, somebody that's had an impact on your life. I really encourage you to reach out for some help, because I think it's the most important thing that you can do in your life when you're struggling. So, but that's my final thought. Your mic went out again. Love you though. I'll have to go ahead and say it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for being here on our inaugural episode of 4th and 10U on our own channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. And if you're new here and you haven't checked out the Fins Tailgate, make sure you head on over there and hit the like button and the subscribe button on all their videos. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Till next time.